Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Govs on the Go Faculty Spotlight, a podcast featuring faculty in the College of Arts and Letters here at Austin Peay State University. My name is Dr. Buzz Hoon. I'm the Dean of the college. I'm also the host of the podcast. Today I'm talking with Dr. Michael Chandler, Assistant Professor in the Department of Music and the Coordinator of Music Education here at Austin Peay. And welcome to the podcast, Dr. Chandler. So great to have you.
Thank you so much, Dean Hoon. I appreciate it.
Now, I love your backstory, and I would like to know if you could tell us a little bit about it. You know, you have this great experience of being an elementary music school teacher in Texas for 16 years, and I'm interested to find out you had, and not only that, you were, I think, Teacher of the Year and twice. And so you had such great success, and I'm not going to, I'm so glad you're here, first of all, but I also like to know how you came into higher education in Austin Peay.
Sure. Well, I never thought I would be an elementary music teacher. I did an undergraduate degree in music education and thought I would be a band director like many of my friends, but I was also a pianist, and after I finished my education degree, I decided to earn a master's degree in piano performance, and I thought I really would like to perform as a classical pianist. And then I went to Germany for a year on a Rotary scholarship and studied piano in Frankfurt, Germany, and thinking, well, when I get back, I'm going to work on the real music, the classical music. I'm going to work on my doctoral degree in piano. And when I came back to the States, I realized, well, I need a job and I need health insurance and benefits, so what could I do? And a friend of mine said, well, you have a teaching license. Why don't you teach elementary music? That'll be really easy. And I was naive enough to believe that. And I thought, well, sure, I could do that. It's just elementary kids. So I applied for jobs. It was the middle of the summer, and there weren't many jobs left, but I ended up teaching in suburban Fort Worth for a year. And I realized right away as an only child, wow, I have an education degree in music education, and I don't really know how to interact with kids very well. So it was a challenge that first year, and I still had that mentality of working with kids. It was not the real music. But I came into contact with some teachers who invited me to workshops, and they invited me to Orff Schulwerk workshops and Kodály workshops, and I started in these workshops to realize that I had a lot to learn about how to teach children. And I started working on Orff certification in the summers, and I realized I really would like to get a master's degree in music education. So I started working on another master's degree in the summers at the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota, where they had a really great Orff program. And pretty soon, 1 or 2 years turned into 16. And along the way, as I started engaging in these summer professional development workshops, some of my teachers said, well, you should be teaching this. And I thought, well, what do I know? I'm just doing what you've taught me. And my teachers would say, well, you should be showing other teachers how to do these things. And so a few years into my teaching career, I started teaching summer workshops. And that continued. And then around my 14th or 15th year of teaching, I thought, I need another challenge. I've been doing this 15 or 16 years. What could I do that's different? And a friend said, you sound like someone who should work on a PhD in music education. I thought, me? And they said, yeah, you're ready for this. And I was pretty intimidated about it. You know, research seemed like a foreign concept to me, but I liked the teaching aspect of it. And the University of North Texas was close by. I was living in Dallas. And I went and met with some professors, and they said, we'd love to have you in the program. So in 2014, I left the classroom and became a PhD student full-time. And I did my degree in 4 years and began to realize, yeah, I think there might be a place for me in higher ed. And was defending my dissertation and was applying for jobs across the country. And Austin Peay came up, and I grew up in McKenzie, Tennessee, which is just an hour and a half from here. And I've lived in Texas. I'd lived there since I was in my early 20s. And I thought, I know that school, Austin Peay. And I thought, well, I'll go ahead and apply for that. And even though I had job offers from other places around the country, Austin Peay felt right. It just felt right to me. And it gave me the impression that this is where you're supposed to be. And everything lined up, and I was offered the position, and I accepted it.
Wow.
So I'm kind of back home.
Yeah, and that's not only is that a great story, that's a way of, I think what will benefit our students is that you had that real life experience as an elementary music teacher, and so you have that to really communicate to them. Let's talk about some of the classes that you teach. What do you really enjoy about those classes?
I love engaging with the students. And the students that I teach are the ones who are majoring in music education, so they're passionate about it. And they want to be effective music teachers. Mostly, they want to become a music teacher because they had a great experience with a music teacher when they were in high school or in elementary school. So they want to duplicate that experience for students, and many of them have had leadership positions in schools, and they're good at their instrument, they're good at music, so it feels like a good fit. So I love working with the students. I love all my classes, but my favorite class to teach is probably Introduction to Music Education. And the students take that in the fall of their sophomore year, and it's when I get to introduce them to, here's what it's like to be a public school music teacher. And they get to do a little bit of peer teaching, and they do presentations where they'll say, here are the top 10 things that I want for my students every time they come to my classroom. It's sort of unpacking the career and understanding, here's what you're getting into.
Right.
And the purpose is to kind of see, is this really what you want to pursue? Because if they get through the class and realize, I'm not sure I want to do the classroom, they're not too invested in, they can change their major, but most of the time they go, yep, I feel like I'm ready and committed for a career in music education.
And that's important. We want them to be happy in what they've chosen and to go out into the world prepared and satisfied with their education here. You mentioned the ORF School of Work. Hopefully I've gotten that right. If not, you'll correct me. That approach to training.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about why you use that?
Well, Orff Schulwerk is named after Carl Orff, who was a famous composer, and most people know him from the piece Carmina Burana, which is in commercials and commercial music, and it's performed by orchestras everywhere. But he was actually a music educator as well, and Orff believed in learning music through the things we do naturally, like speech and children's rhymes and the mother tongue, so teaching in your native language. So the Orff approach, I'm really drawn to it because it's playful and it's creative. And from the very beginning, even with kindergartners, you can have children improvising and composing their own music within age-appropriate parameters. So they can create rhythm patterns, they can create melodic patterns, and it's integrated with movement and folk dance, creative movement, and then there's a host of instruments that the students can play: the xylophones, metallophones, glockenspiels, recorder, ukulele. So they're all instruments that are pretty accessible for students to play. And I like it because it involves everybody. I often think that Orff is the original differentiated instruction, because you can find an important job for everybody, no matter their ability, whether they are typically abled or if they have disabilities or cognitive disabilities. Every student can participate in music making in the classroom with that approach.
Well, that's terrific, because as I shared with you before we began, my own experience was related to something that you wrote about, which was you wrote about everyday recorder every day. Is that
yes,
right?
Yes.
And I'm hoping that it is about using a recorder. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So a few years ago, a company approached me about writing a recorder book for classroom music teachers. And what most people write is a method book that is very prescribed and has written notation all the way through. Here's the order that you introduce notes. But what I wrote was a book that it integrates the recorder into all music making. So it takes the recorder, and right away you're learning the recorder by rote, by ear, and you're improvising and composing with the instrument, and the notation comes later. So much like we learn to speak. So we learn to speak our language with much more fluency than we can read it at first. So the kids learn to play the recorder by ear, by rote. Later we add the notation, and the instrument is integrated with all of the instruments in the classroom and with movement and singing and speech. So it just becomes more of a holistic experience.
Wow, that's terrific. Another article that you wrote about sort of came out of what you and others here in the Department of Music encountered during the pandemic. Can you talk about the approach to taking school books and then how you brought music in, brought them alive after the experience during the pandemic?
Sure. So when the pandemic happened, it put lots of orchestras and public performances were ending, and I was a member of the Gateway Chamber Orchestra board at the time. And the conductor, Dr. Walnick, Gregory Walnick, realized, well, I've got musicians and we can't have public performances now. So how can we engage the musicians so that they can still have some income and feel like they're being creative and being musical even though we can't have public performances? So I compiled a set of about 12 children's books, award-winning children's books that were of notable quality, representing cultures around the world. And Dr. Walnick got in touch with musicians in the Gateway Chamber Orchestra who wanted to participate in the project. So the musicians would select a book that they thought, this is a really great book. I kind of identify with this. I'd like to do something with this story. And they found a collaborator. Most of the time it was a pianist, but it could be a drummer or someone else. And they selected repertoire for their instrument and their collaborator that could be related to the story. And then I contacted elementary music teachers, and we got a lot of the CMCSS music teachers on board to serve as narrators and authors for instructional materials to go with the book and with the story. And in this big collaborative effort, we put together this video series called Magical Music and Timeless Tales. And we put all 12 of these children's books as a video series. So the music teacher who volunteered would read the story on video, and the GCO musician would perform repertoire with their collaborator, and Dr. Walnick served as the host. And we made these videos available for all of the CMCSS music teachers and also in Williamson County, which was at the time a second home for Gateway Chamber Orchestra.
Well, that's just amazing. It shows that we have people here that were willing to adapt and make sure to keep art and music alive in this instance, but also connect with the community and provide a service to our teachers, which is wonderful. One other thing that I want to talk with you about, and I know I'm hoping that I'm not running too long, is a little bit about your work with the community school choir.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about why you do that and what benefit you get from doing that?
Well, I want to stay connected to working with children because I feel like that keeps me relevant in the field, because I'm showing music education majors how to work with children, so I feel like I need to still be working with children. But I also love children's choirs and children's choral music, and that's such a great experience. So before the pandemic, I had worked with Dr. Cruz and Sika, and we were going to start a children's choir based on a model for a couple of choirs that I had participated or worked with in Texas. And then the pandemic happened, and the idea was put on hold. But now this last year, we held auditions in May, and we had 46 third, fourth, and fifth graders who came fourth, fifth, and sixth graders who came and auditioned, and we accepted everybody, and the choir started out with all of them. We rehearse on Monday nights, and we will present one concert in November and one concert in May. So we had our first concert this past November, and we'll have our next one coming up May 8th.
And I saw so many happy faces and so many happy parents and relatives and friends of those young people. It just made me so happy. As I told you, you plant that little seed and make music come alive within a young person, and they can carry that through the rest of their lives. Yeah. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on the podcast. It's been a wonderful talk.
Thanks so much.
And we hope that, also thanks to our viewers and listeners out there for joining us. We hope that you will continue to watch our profiles of some of the outstanding professors we have in the College of Arts and Letters here at Austin Peay State University. So until next time, stay safe, take care, and God bless.